From a Stranger, Chapter 8, Monday, June 23rd, Daniel. I couldn't sleep. My body said it was both time to sleep and time to get up. The get up part won, and I crawled off the old sofa before anyone else was awake. "No, no, no, follow me," Johnny yelled from the other room. Almost everyone. How does anyone sleep here? 2 days ago I had been a wreck. Yesterday I had been a wreck. Now I wasn't. I still had my times when it felt like everything was destroyed, but mornings in Hawaii are when I feel alive. I'm an expert now. It's my second morning. It was quiet except for Johnny's gaming, someone's snores, and the passing of a truck outside. It was too good of a morning to waste, so I went outside and began my daily yoga routine. Maybe I should explain, but it's more than yoga. I start out with 5 minutes of stretches, 10 minutes of calisthenics and bodyweight exercises. Then I move into 45 minutes of yoga. Over the years, I've developed an even day routine and an odd day routine. That way I hit the muscle groups I consider to be the most important. I don't do abs. They come along for the ride. I've been starting my day this way since high school, and whenever I could, I timed it with the dawn. Or better put, sometimes the dawn timed itself with me. Like this morning, very high wispy clouds turned into pure silver, a sky that was barely blue color, with a light sheen of mist over everything. It rained or misted at random times in Hawaii, and it was the most beautiful morning I think I had ever seen. Better than perfect for a little yoga. I enrolled my brand new yoga mat and placed it on the lawn. I've never imagined a place could be as green as Hawaii. Somehow, open-air yoga is what makes me come alive. Yoga helps me process life, helps me think. I could see the mistakes in my life I had made over the last few years and how it had led me here. I shifted poses, pushing myself a little to get the stretch. I guess Dad had it all figured out way before me. That's why he's Dad. I didn't know how I could fix any of this. All I knew that Sunday would come whether I liked it or not, and I would be flying back to the Butte. The door opened and Shani came out eating an apple. She took one last bite and joined me. When was the last time I had done yoga with anyone? Ashley didn't like it. She said, "It made me hurt all over." Mostly, I learned from DVDs. Now I just do it. I toned my postures and poses back a bit, letting Shani copy me. She was still learning, hadn't quite gotten the balance right. Still, it was nice practicing with somebody, so we stretched and reached and balanced for the next 15 minutes in silence. I have to admit, she had potential. "Hey, do you want to eat something before we go?" Ilya opened the screen door and poked his head out. "No, I'm good. I'll get a coffee at the Sand Crab later." "I'll be a minute. Shani, Mom wants you to set the table." She gave that teenage girl irritated look, scowling, rolling her eyes, clenching her fists. "Thanks for the practice," I said. "We'll do it again before I leave." "Okay," she said. That was fun?" She ran back inside, rubbing her shoulder. I think I had shown her a couple of poses that she wasn't familiar with. My mistake. I followed, but at a slower rate. Once inside, I grabbed my phone and tidied up the couch where I had slept. Everybody was in the living room or kitchen, except Johnny. Gaming was something I had never gotten into. I guess in that way I was like my brothers. I preferred the outdoors, so why was I an accountant? We left soon after, and arrived at the Monarch Imperial. "Find some place you want to visit after I get off work and we'll go see it," Elio said as he locked the car and ran inside. I took the purchases to my room and organized them. I didn't want to be indoors, and I had never finished my routine. I ran what I figured was a 5-kilometer track, stopped on the beach, same spot as before, and started my morning routine over. I added a few exercises and stretches, then I started the poses. The other yoga lady joined me, then a couple of others, then Stacy Colwyn? At least I think it was her. Brunette, no makeup, a couple of friends who walked with her and didn't join in. I didn't say anything, but just for fun, I included some of the more advanced things I knew. The yoga lady and the singer kept up just fine. The others couldn't. I toned it back down for them. When we finished, yoga lady gathered her mat and took off. Stacy wandered over and said, "Thanks for the workout." It was her. I pretended she was a normal person. "Anytime. Tomorrow, maybe?" She nodded and wandered away with her 2 friends. The one was as big as David. I went back to my room, showered, and looked over my new clothes. finally, something different to wear. And it was different. Not a pair of slacks or button-down shirts or sensible shoes left the store. Nobody back home would recognize me in light khaki shorts, tie-dyed t-shirts, and sandals. I took the laptop over to the sand crab and found Barney. "Thanks for letting me cry on your shoulder yesterday." "Literally." "I'll expect a good tip." Barney smiled a little. "How are you doing today?" "Cloudy with a chance of rain." We chatted for a few minutes, and then I went to a side table and got to work. Yep, boring accountant. That's me. But what wasn't boring was my office. A side table in a beach bar with a view of the sky and the ocean. A Monday morning, and no one was on the beach. Just me and a few seagulls. My boss instant messaged me. I messaged him back, and we had one strange conversation. Somewhere in there, I told him the details of the weekend, and I told him I was gay. His next response stunned me. So's my brother. Then we kept working, instant messaging about everything. I told him about where I was working. He told me about where he and his wife went on their honeymoon. About 11, I got a text from Ilya wanting to meet for lunch. I told him where I was, and a few minutes later he joined me. It was so good to see him. I can't believe it's only been 2 days, and I've come to depend on him for everything. So much so, I dreaded the coming Sunday. "Have you picked out a spot to visit this afternoon?" "I've been so focused on work I haven't." Elio crossed his arms and frowned. "You need to stop that. It's your vacation." "I guess," I said. "But do you know how jealous my boss got when I told him where I was working and what the ocean looked like?" Barney came by with our order. "You're hopeless," Elio said. "I have an idea for you, though. Let's make you a surfboard." "Me? A surfboard?" "Custom, out of wood, like my special board." "You can do that in 6 days?" Elio shrugged. "A full board might be a bit much, but a boogie board wouldn't, or a skim board. I have a cousin who can help us out. His son is my best friend, and you should see what he can paint. We can see them after work. What do you say?" "Sure, I guess." Barney brought us refills. Out on the beach, some people were kicking a soccer ball around. "Great. How about this, then? I'll pick you up around 3. We head off for my cousin's, then back home to grab my batons and costume, then back here." "That sounds like quite a trip." "It's not bad, but I forgot it's Monday, and I perform tonight at the luau. The Monarch has luau's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, not including special events. I'm scheduled every Monday and Friday. Maurice takes Wednesday and Saturday." "What about last Saturday?" "I was covering." Ilio almost inhaled his foot-long sub. "I've got to run. Big event to get ready for. Hey, do you mind if I crash on your couch tonight?" "Depends. Do you snore?" I smiled. "That's Johnny, if he ever goes to bed. Or Grammy. You want to come to the luau tonight? I promise not to embarrass you this time." And suddenly we went from strangers to roommates. And the funny thing was, I was okay with that. Ilio. Daniel was calmer today, relaxed. For a little while, I didn't have to worry about him. I spoke with Barney, and he said he'd keep an eye on him. Barney's as worried as I am, and being an ex-psychologist, that's saying something. I can't help but feel something bad will happen, and it will be enough to send Daniel over the edge. He hasn't said too much, but enough that I don't know if I could handle what he is dealing with. Sometimes he gets too serious, the kind of serious I get worried about, because it's how I felt after the accident. I don't want another body washing up on shore, not again. My best friend's was hard enough. That's why Timmy's death hit so hard, and it hurts every time I think about that big old dog, my other best friend. Daniel must never know how desperate I am to keep him alive. If it takes babysitting him as much as I can for the next week, so be it. It also helps that he's my kind of cute, and my family likes him, and I am starting to think we might develop something. It's too soon to fall in love, right? Lust? Maybe it's just a simple case of one guy caring for another, except Daniel leaves on Sunday. Deal with that later. Daniel isn't the only one who thinks too much, and Noah thought I played all the time. For now, happy face, and we're off to visit my cousin Salvador. The Big Fish Surf Shop, Cousin Sal's place. It sells anything and everything to do with the ocean, and it also makes custom boards for pros and tourists. Daniel qualifies for the last one. Salvador is the owner, resident artist, and surfing guru. What he doesn't know about the surf, God doesn't know. We aren't really cousins. It's a weird kind of thing. He's technically the brother to my mother's uncle's wife's father's sister-in-law. I know. My family tree is screwed up, but we just call him Cousin Sal. Everybody does. And he helped me build my board. Designed it a little wider than normal, so Timmy would fit. I told you, Timmy was a big dog. He's also father to Billy. He doesn't blame me for what happened. At least he doesn't say so. But sometimes I think he does. I know I do. We pulled up to the Big Fish surf shop and climbed out. The front was decorated with a row of surfboard. Inside, the walls were lined with more surfboards, boogie boards, skim boards, everything. Hundreds of pictures lined the walls. Each had Sal with a different pro surfer. He knew them all, going back nearly 2 decades. And each picture was signed and behind glass. Behind the counter he has some pictures of his family, including a couple of Billy. One older one showing me and Billy before the accident, another showing Billy after the accident, and one of the both of us in hospital beds giving a high five, me in the elephant-sized knee brace, him with some bandages and lying impossibly still on the bed. We were both shirtless, tried to smile, and his worked. Mine looked more like a scowl. I had just woken up from another surgery. I closed my eyes and remembered screaming for help, my leg unable to move. Billy is cold as the water, not moving. I'm trying to keep his head above water because I'm hoping he's still breathing. I shake my head to clear my thoughts. Noah thinks I'm too shallow. I never told him the full story about Billy. And Noah rarely came here. It wasn't his kind of place. People like Billy made him uncomfortable. The aisles were wider than you'd expect. The counter had a lower section that no one but Billy could use. The whole change in the layout of the store had been my fault. Cousin Sal had everything related to surfing. Clothes, boards, wetsuits, wax, sexy pinups of both guys and girls, every surf magazine ever created. And the best part was the shop behind the store. That's where the magic happens. They make custom boards here, any size, any shape, and sell them all over the world. Not just to use, but also for decoration. Daniel paused at each board, eyes wide, the kid in a candy shop kind of stare. I bet he never guessed there were so many kinds and types and styles. One display featured the wooden boards. Some were painted, some were varnished, all looked like works of art. Daniel stepped in front of a mahogany one and touched the wood grain. Next to it was one with a tiki face stretched across it. He stopped at one made of paulownia wood with 3 dolphins jumping out of the ocean. It was a nice one, chambered, smooth finished, wood grain nicely lined up. This one had taken some time. It had Billy's signature on it. I should have known. I took Daniel up to the counter. Sal was behind it, talking like crazy. I nodded, he nodded, and I took Daniel into the back. I still feel guilty. If Daniel had been amazed at the front of the store, he was even more back here. One section was for the regular boards, foam core covered in fiberglass. Another section was for the wooden boards. The finishing section was in the back, where people were turning each board into a work of art. Daniel stopped as one guy painted an intricate octopus across one, by hand. The board next to it was a scantily clad hula girl with hair covering the right parts. I took Daniel's hand and took him back to the section where they made the wooden boards. Wooden surfboards usually aren't solid. They have an inner framework, chambers, and building them takes time. That's why my board took so long to make. It's not just a piece of glazed wood. It has an inner structure that's a thing of beauty, covered with strips of wood. Mine is paulownia, but most woods would do. A normal kid wouldn't build one, but I did. I didn't know these things when I started building. If I had, maybe it wouldn't have taken so long, but I didn't care. We stopped at a place with a couple of custom sawhorses. Custom because they were lower. An open surfboard lay on top, and you could see how the chambers were set up. Next to this board was a second one, almost finished. Thor calling down lightning bolts. It was also as low as the other one. Billy hovered over it, painting with that steady hand of his. Daniel was spellbound as Billy finished painting the hammer. Billy. He looked normal now. Shoulder-length, tousled, dirty blonde hair, tan, and a beanie to keep his hair from falling forward. He never tied it up. He doesn't blame me. Credits me for saving his life. I know better. Billy knows the story, but remembers it differently. Billy looked up, smiled, and carefully set the brush on a tray at his side. Ilio, when we going surfing next? Then he rolled around the surfboard, and anybody can understand why things are built a bit lower here. The accident left him paralyzed. Not the car accident, but what happened as we escaped the car. The surf that night was so wild, the pros wouldn't go out in it. The surf pushed me and Billy on the rocks. It shattered my left knee, broke his spinal L4. And no matter what anybody says, it's my fault. How does Thursday sound? I play it easy and cool. I don't want either Billy or Daniel to see the darkness inside me. I have to help in the luau Wednesday night. I'll be ready. Billy rolled forward, right up to Daniel, and held out his hand. You must be Daniel, the refugee from Nevada. Daniel took the hand. Then he pulled up a stool so he's close to Billy's eye level. I must be famous. Everybody knows me. Elia told me about you this morning when he said he'd bring you over. Daniel looked at me. What else have you said about me? I stepped over and rubbed Daniel's shoulders. I told him about how cute you are. Billy is comfortable with me being gay. I told him back when we were both in the hospital. Daniel, this is Billy, my human best friend. He's Cousin Sal's son. Stepson, by his third wife. I'm sorry about Timmy, Billy said. That dog could catch a frisbee better than most people. I wish I could have made it to the ashes ceremony you had. Daniel was there. That's kind of where I asked you out. The conversation devolved after that. We talked about Nevada, the surf, the strange way tourists drive, everything, including what kind of sushi is best. Daniel could keep any conversation moving. Cousin Sal came into the back and found us. Everybody calls him cousin. He's that kind of guy. Ilio, haven't seen you since last week. How's that board holding up? I told him about the board, about Timmy, and introduced Daniel. Billy went back to work. I'm sorry to hear about Timmy. That was one sweet dog you had. Not every dog has the temperament to ride, but Timmy was one of the best. I'll drink to him tonight. He winced when he realized what he'd said. He knows. Sorry, he said quietly. That's another one of Cousin Sal's talents. He makes his own wine and surfboards. No one's quite like Sal. Daniel never noticed the awkward pause, so I quickly changed the subject. Daniel's leaving on Sunday, and I thought it would be nice to send him off with a custom board. Maybe a skimboard? Cousin Sal led us back to where he had wood curing. Daniel, you do much riding back home? Horses, donkeys, mules, motorcycles, not surfboards. I live on the edge of the Mojave. Daniel stepped forward toward one of the pieces of wood and bent to look it over. More's the pity. Showboard. Solid wood cutout. Timing is an issue. We won't have it ready by this weekend. I'll help him cut it from the template. What if he were to do the sanding himself? I'll give you a discount, on top of being a friend of my family. Choose a style. 2 hours and we had the blank for a skimboard, planed edges, and a lot of different grades of sandpaper. This would be one souvenir Daniel couldn't find in any store. A custom board, custom designed, that he'd made himself. What other tourist on the planet, outside of a pro, could say the same thing? Maybe now I wouldn't have to worry about him so much.